John began the lonely walk home, thoughts tumbling like shoes in a dryer. He had done everything wrong. Barbara had led him on just to humiliate him.
So, what's up guys, it's Flying Jenny here, and we are coming back with another episode of Genital Jousting. So yeah, it's going to be pretty lit.
John felt empty. How could he get love?
Okay, just ignore, just interrupt my
He felt like he was missing something, some key to attracting sex. But John was shooting blanks. What did Peens want?
So anyway, yeah, we're coming back with another episode, and
Then it hit John out of nowhere. Stuff. He had the success. He just needed to show it off. But where was John going to get all the stuff he wanted? John needed a sign.
So yeah, we're coming back, and yeah, this is going to be a fun episode. And yeah, let's get on with it.
A new day, a new John. He waited outside his local buttload store for it to open, eager to spend his promotion bonus on stuff. The best way to impress women.
So yeah, we're coming back. Oh yeah, what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, the sale got kind of weird, but I just had to do that little part back again. So yeah, this is I haven't seen this before. So yeah, what the hell is this? Oh, why is it more whiter on the tip? Oh, actually, and I'm stuck. Nope. My balls are too big for this. You know, I'll just go on this. Or not, okay. Okay.
Suddenly it occurred to John that he was going to make a lot of choices. And every one of those choices would tell the world who he was. What would a date think when they sat in John's home? Comfort or style?
Comfort.
Nothing says style like an overpriced and uncomfortable chair. John weighed up all the differences, but this was a tough choice. John chose the extremely, obviously bad TV.
Digital way better.
John realized that it was only 2 months and 29 days until the reunion. Time flies.
Yeah, let's go.
Cactus or rose?
Rose.
Was John a rugged hero or a romantic poet?
Yeah, exactly. Romantic. No, I said buy this.
If John grew his own flowers, then he'd save on romantic gestures in the long run.
$2,000.
There was nothing John could take with him to the grave.
Yeah.
Except his coffin.
Yeah.
Death is inevitable.
Of course.
Style is not. John liked to get his pizza delivered. That way he could see Delilah, the delivery peen. She always made him smile. John knew that Delilah thought pineapple on pizza was an abomination. What bedding would Delilah prefer? John couldn't help wondering. Pizza sheets would show her that John could also deliver. In bed.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Devoid of any sense of style, buying new clothes would be John's toughest challenge. He bought an outfit without trying it on.
I spent like 10K
It was a hula
already.
skirt. I thought you should know that much. It's not flattering. Music, the food of love.
But actually, wait.
Should John go retro sophisticated
this is more
or just retro?
This is more like romantic-ish, kind of.
John was sure he could just pirate extra records. Every can was made of metal, pulled from the bones of the earth, wrestled to the surface and smelted in roaring furnaces. All so John could buy peas preserved in salty water and stick them up his butt.
Oh, how do peens eat? Do they just stick it up the back?
John's new purchases were on the way to his apartment. All he had to do was invite a date over. One look at all his stuff, and they'd be overwhelmed with sexual desire. John felt proud. And also hungry.
Yeah.
It gave him an idea.
Where's the pizza?
He should invite Delilah over for dinner. John was excited. Delilah was on her way. He just needed to set the mood to romance.
Okay, let's, music. Where's my music? Music. Oh, candles. Yeah. Get that. Well, get this. Yeah, there you go. And then swipe. Shit.
Classy.
Okay. Get it, and then. Oh, okay. I can just do that. Okay, so. There you go. Oh, I've got the candles. The music is right over here, so I'll get that. The record, big shot, and scatter roses. Okay. Ouch.
John hoped she didn't have allergies. That must be Delilah at the door.
More.
The door opened and there was Delilah. John gulped down his nerves and invited her in.
Oh, I even have.
John could tell that Delilah was impressed by his stuff. It was time to crank up the mood to seduction. John wanted to offer Delilah wine, but he'd already popped his cork. Delilah started looking as nervous as John felt. He assumed it was because she was shy too. They really were compatible. Of course, at the reunion, he couldn't mention Delilah was a delivery peen. That would be embarrassing. Delilah suddenly headed for the door.
What? No.
And just like that, John was alone again. Delilah hadn't even looked at his stuff. Not even the pizza bedspread. The rejection burned. John felt insignificant. He had everything he wanted. The job, the money, the stuff. So much stuff. He wanted to destroy all of it. Shove it into the abyss. His stuff didn't matter. He was a shaft in the machine. A lonely piston pumping away like all the others in his rigid place. Stupid records. Nothing special about him. Why should Delilah or Barbara or any other peen be interested in dating him? He was just like everyone else and they could tell. John wanted to be special, but he had to face the numb truth. He wasn't. And all the money and stuff he'd ever accumulate wouldn't change that. He thought it would make him unique, but it just made him more like everyone else. He should leave it all. Get out of this little town and go on an adventure. See the world. He was a boring corporate drone, but he didn't have to be. He could be a traveler, exploring jungles and climbing mountains. He could visit the wonders of the world and get his picture taken. Like Peony Island, the unspoiled paradise he'd seen on TV. That was it. John had to travel.
Did I destroy enough?
Bags packed, John was ready to put 5,000 miles
Okay.
between him and his problems. He was leaving it all behind, including his luggage.
Shit. No, I don't want
John
it.
was so
Go back.
close,
Go back,
he
go
could
back.
almost smell the freedom of the skies.
Oh god, no. Okay. I literally have nothing.
Security sent John back through the detector. John had forgotten he had his nail clippers with him. He'd have to buy another pair soon, or he'd look ridiculous.
Wait, where am I? I want to move. Go.
When the acceleration of takeoff had slackened, John felt a sweet relief.
let her go.
He had left his worries on the runway. He was up in the clouds, on his way to adventure.
Oh, guys, also ask me if you guys want a webcam for the next video. So, yeah, I could do that also. So, it's gonna be pretty lit.
John's adventure had begun at last, And clearly it was a small world after all, and also a flat one. That was going to piss off the globe heads.
Ah, okay. All of the wonders. I've experienced a good amount. Why isn't it? Hollywood, yes. Screw you, train. Wait, maybe I can get this on my butt. Go, 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 go. Oh, it's Peenezilla! No! Oh, the statue of Pino. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, shit. Put it, go on my butt, go on my butt. Oh, there you go. Yeet. The Leaning Tower of Pisa in my butt. Go, put it in. Oh. Come on, there you go. Oh god. Oh god. Yeah, there you go. Putin. Yeah, go. Oh. Big Ben. Okay, get it, Big Ben.
John was having fun, but something told him he needed to go home. Probably his empty bank account.
Yeah.
John was on his way back home. He was out of money, but money can't buy love. What it can buy are the experiences that had made John a more interesting and developed person, with 100 Buttstagram photos to prove it. Finally, everything was going smoothly. John felt good to be back on the familiar ground of home, but he would feel better to be on the familiar mattress of home.
I think I'm gonna end the video here, guys. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Put all your questions and suggestions in the comments, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Flying Tuna out. Bye.